The cop seized the blue sapphire bracelet from Linda's hands. "That's not yours!" he barked, his accusing glare unwavering. Security cameras caught everything. Linda stood speechless in the upscale jewelry store, clutching her purse as everyone stared. What the corrupt Officer Simmons didn't know was that Gregory Sullivan, watching silently from across the room, wasn't just a store employee. He was Linda's husband and a police chief conducting an undercover investigation. Linda Sullivan smoothed her gray cardigan as she gazed at her reflection in the hallway mirror. At 42, she carried herself with the kind of quiet dignity that came from years of teaching third graders. Her straight blonde bob framed a face that smiled easily, though today her blue eyes held a hint of apprehension. "You sure you don't want me to come along?" Gregory called from his study, papers scattered across his desk. As police chief, his workload never seemed to diminish, even on weekends. "It's just a gift for Carol's retirement," Linda replied, adjusting her simple pearl earrings. After 30 years of teaching, she deserves something special from the staff. Gregory emerged from his office, his salt and pepper hair neatly combed, his strong build evident even in casual clothes. "All right, but remember, Murray's fine jewelry has been getting some complaints lately, customers claiming items went missing." Linda smiled. Gregory's protective instincts never switched off, even after 15 years of marriage. "I'm just going to be in and out. Besides, what could possibly happen to a school teacher buying a bracelet?" Gregory's expression remained serious. "I'm actually heading that way myself. There's something about those complaints that doesn't add up." The officer who responded to each call was the same guy, Jason Simmons. "Your new transfer from the West Side precinct?" Linda asked, gathering her purse. "Something about him doesn't sit right with me," Gregory admitted. "I'm going undercover to observe him. He doesn't know what I look like. I've been working from the East office since he arrived." Linda kissed him on the cheek. "My husband, the detective. I'll be careful not to blow your cover if I see you." As she drove to the jewelry store, Linda hummed along to the oldies station. Teaching had been her calling for over 20 years now, and gestures like this, pooling money with the other teachers to buy Carol something special, were part of what made their small community feel like family. Murray's fine jewelry stood at the center of the upscale shopping plaza, its elegant window displays gleaming under perfectly positioned lights. Linda checked her appearance one last time in the car mirror. Simple white blouse under her light gray cardigan, understated makeup. Nothing about her screamed suspicious character. With a little laugh at her own nervousness, she grabbed her purse and made her way inside. The moment the door closed behind her, the air changed, cooler, hushed, fragranced with subtle notes of luxury. Linda took a deep breath and approached the counter, unaware that this simple errand was about to turn her ordinary day into something far more dangerous. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over glass display, cases filled with glittering gems. Linda felt slightly out of place among the opulence, but reminded herself she was a paying customer like anyone else. She approached a display of bracelets, remembering that Carol had always admired blue stones. "May I help you?" The voice belonged to an older man with thinning hair and wire-rimmed glasses. His name tag read, Harold Murray, Manager. "Yes, I'm looking for a retirement gift. Something with sapphires, perhaps?" Linda smiled warmly. Murray's gaze swept over her, lingering briefly on her modest clothes before his expression shifted subtly. "Of course. We have several pieces that might interest you." His tone carried a hint of skepticism that Linda chose to ignore. As Murray guided her to a display case, Linda noticed other employees assisting customers. Her eyes briefly met those of a man in a black vest and tie who seemed to be arranging watches in a nearby case. Something about him seemed familiar, but she quickly looked away, remembering Gregory's undercover operation. "These are our sapphire pieces," Murray explained, unlocking a case. He removed a stunning bracelet with deep blue stones set in white gold. "This is one of our finest, 14 genuine sapphires with diamond accents. May I?" He gestured to her wrist. Linda nodded, extending her arm. The bracelet was beautiful, catching the light as Murray fastened it. "It's gorgeous. How much is it?" $8,500, Murray replied, watching her reaction closely. Linda carefully kept her expression neutral, despite her surprise at the price. The teachers had collected nearly 3,000. She'd need to look at something more modest. "Perhaps something simpler?" she suggested gently. Murray's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Of course, not everyone appreciates fine jewelry. He returned the bracelet to its display, locking the case. Linda felt a flicker of annoyance at his condescension, but maintained her composure. I'm looking for quality, just within a particular budget. As Murray reluctantly showed her more affordable options, the door chimed. Linda glanced up to see a uniformed police officer entering. Tall and broad-shouldered, with close-cropped brown hair, he radiated authority as he surveyed the store. "Officer Simmons," Murray acknowledged, suddenly more animated. "Just doing your usual security check?" "Just keeping an eye on things," the officer replied, his gaze sweeping the store before settling on Linda. Something in his expression made her uneasy. Linda selected a simpler silver and sapphire bracelet priced at their budget. "This one would be perfect. I'll take it." While Murray processed her credit card, Linda noticed Officer Simmons moving closer, watching her with unusual intensity. She shifted uncomfortably, double-checking that she had returned the expensive bracelet to Murray. "Receipt and gift box," Murray said, sliding them across the counter. "Will there be anything else?" "No, thank you. This is perfect." Linda placed the small bag in her purse. She had barely taken 2 steps toward the exit when Officer Simmons moved into her path. "Excuse me, ma'am, but I need to check your purse." His tone was authoritative, his expression unyielding. Linda blinked in surprise. "I'm sorry?" "Security protocol. We've had several thefts recently." His hand was already extended, waiting. Linda felt her heart racing, but had nothing to hide. She handed over her purse, aware that other customers were now watching with interest, including the man in the black vest who had moved slightly closer. Officer Simmons rummaged through her bag, then triumphantly pulled out a glittering object, the expensive sapphire bracelet she had tried on earlier. "What?" Linda gasped. "That's not mine." "I returned it to Mr. Murray." "Then how did it end up in your purse?" Officer Simmons demanded, holding the bracelet up so everyone could see. "I don't know. I didn't take it." Linda felt her face burning with embarrassment and confusion. Murray approached, his expression a mixture of disappointment and accusation. "I knew something wasn't right when you came in," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "People like you always think you can get away with it." "People like me?" Linda echoed incredulously. "I'm a school teacher. I would never steal anything." Officer Simmons gripped her arm firmly. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." As Simmons continued reciting her rights, Linda caught sight of the man in the black vest. For just a moment, his eyes met hers, and in that brief connection, she recognized the steely determination of her husband. "This is ridiculous," Linda protested as Officer Simmons secured the bracelet in an evidence bag. "I didn't steal anything." The other customers had backed away, forming a loose circle around the unfolding drama. Their expressions ranged from shock to poorly concealed fascination. Nothing like a midday crime to break the monotony of shopping. "Security cameras don't lie, ma'am," Simmons replied, his voice carrying through the hushed store. "And neither does the evidence in your purse." Linda fought to keep her composure as panic threatened to overwhelm her. "There must be a mistake. I handed that bracelet back to Mr. Murray. Everyone saw me." Murray shook his head slowly, the picture of regretful authority. "I'm afraid not. I showed you several pieces, but this particular one," he gestured to the bagged bracelet, "never made it back to the display case." Linda's mind raced. She knew with absolute certainty she hadn't taken the bracelet, which meant only one thing: someone had planted it in her purse. But who and why? "I want to see the security footage," she demanded, straightening her shoulders. Years of maintaining order in a classroom of 8-year-olds had taught her something about projecting confidence, even when shaken. Officer Simmons smirked. "That can be arranged at the station." He turned to Murray. "Will you be pressing charges?" "Absolutely," Murray replied without hesitation. "This is exactly what we discussed earlier about maintaining zero tolerance." The odd phrasing caught Linda's attention. What had they discussed earlier? Before she could contemplate this further, Simmons was gripping her elbow, steering her toward the door. "Wait," she said, pulling back slightly. "I need to make a phone call. I have the right to contact someone." "At the station," Simmons repeated, his grip tightening just enough to communicate that resistance was futile. As they moved toward the exit, Linda noticed the man in the black vest had disappeared. Where had Gregory gone? Had he witnessed what happened? Surely he would intervene. But no one stepped forward as Simmons led her out of the store and toward his patrol car parked prominently in front. The midday sun felt harsh after the dimly lit interior of the jewelry store, and Linda squinted, suddenly aware of how public this humiliation was becoming. "Watch your head," Simmons instructed mechanically as he guided her into the back seat. Through the window, Linda could see Murray watching from the store entrance, a satisfied expression on his face. Something about the way he and Simmons had interacted nagged at her. There was a familiarity there, a practiced rhythm to their exchange that suggested this wasn't their first time handling such a situation. As Simmons settled into the driver's seat, she caught his eyes in the rearview mirror. There was something there, not the righteous determination of an officer upholding the law, but something colder, calculating. "Officer Simmons," she began carefully, "is there anything I can say to convince you that I didn't steal that bracelet?" His eyes hardened. "Save it for the judge, lady. People like you are all the same, think you're entitled to take whatever you want." "People like me? What does that mean?" Linda pressed, indignation temporarily overriding her fear. "Respectable types," he sneered, "acting all innocent while your hands are in the cookie jar." As the patrol car pulled away from the curb, Linda fought back tears. How had a simple shopping trip turned into this nightmare? Where was Gregory? And most importantly, how was she going to prove her innocence when the evidence had been so neatly arranged against her? She didn't realize it yet, but the trap that had been set for her was about to spring shut on the trappers themselves. Gregory Sullivan had witnessed the entire scene from his position near the watch display. Years of police work had trained him to appear casual while missing nothing, and today those skills served him well. The moment Linda had walked into the store, he'd felt a jolt of concern. This complicated things, but perhaps it would also provide the perfect opportunity. For weeks, he'd been tracking a pattern of suspicious theft reports at Murray's fine jewelry. The same officer responding each time. The same manager filing reports. The same insurance claims being processed without question. And most tellingly, security footage that conveniently malfunctioned during critical moments. When Simmons led Linda outside, Gregory moved swiftly. Slipping into the back office, he accessed the security system, just as he'd done earlier that morning when he'd installed his own hidden cameras throughout the store. The official monitors showed exactly what he expected, Linda appearing to pocket the bracelet while Murray was distracted. A perfect setup. But Gregory's hidden cameras told a different story. From an angle invisible to the store's security system, they had captured Murray carefully sliding the bracelet into Linda's open purse while directing her attention to another display. The footage also showed a brief nod exchange between Murray and Simmons just before the officer had approached Linda. Gregory pulled out his phone and placed a call. "Chief Sullivan here. Initiate protocol 117. Target location is Murray's fine jewelry. Suspects are in play." He paused, listening. "Yes, there's been a development. They've just framed my wife." Another pause. "No, this is exactly what we needed. The evidence is clear now. Officer Simmons is taking her to the station. Have Johnson intercept before booking. I'll handle things here." Ending the call, Gregory accessed his tablet, downloading the footage from both the store's system and his hidden cameras. He had suspected Simmons was corrupt, but he'd needed irrefutable evidence. Now he had it, along with proof of Murray's involvement. As Gregory prepared to confront Murray, he thought of Linda, frightened, confused, being led away in humiliation. His jaw tightened. Simmons would pay for that, through proper legal channels. As police chief, Gregory had always insisted his officers uphold the highest standards. Those who betrayed the badge deserved the fullest punishment available. He pocketed the tablet and straightened his tie. Time to close the trap. In his 25 years of law enforcement, Gregory had learned that the most satisfying arrests were those where the criminals never saw justice coming, until it was too late to escape. Linda sat alone in the interview room, the stark fluorescent lighting highlighting the institutional gray walls. She'd refused to cry, refused to show weakness, but inside, her emotions churned between fear, anger, and confusion. How long had she been here? An hour? 2? The door swung open, and a tall woman with cropped gray hair entered, carrying a file folder. She wore a detective's badge clipped to her belt. "Mrs. Sullivan? I'm Detective Rodriguez. Her voice was professional, but kind. I understand there's been some confusion today. Linda's hopes rose cautiously. That's putting it mildly. I've been falsely accused of theft, but no one will listen to me. Rodriguez sat down across from her. Actually, Mrs. Sullivan, I'm here to inform you that you're free to go. No charges will be filed against you. What? Linda blinked in surprise. I don't understand. Officer Simmons was so certain. Officer Simmons has been relieved of duty pending an investigation, Rodriguez stated flatly. We have reason to believe he was involved in a criminal conspiracy with Harold Murray. Before Linda could process this information, the door opened again. Gregory walked in, still wearing the black vest from the jewelry store, his face a mixture of concern and relief. Linda, he said, moving quickly to her side. Are you all right? Gregory! What's happening? Linda stood, accepting his embrace. Detective Rodriguez cleared her throat. Chief Sullivan has been conducting an internal investigation into Officer Simmons for the past month. We had suspicions about a potential insurance fraud scheme involving Simmons and Murray, but we needed concrete evidence. You knew? Linda pulled back to look at her husband. You knew this might happen? Gregory's face was grave. I never imagined they would target you, Linda. I was at the store to observe Simmons' routine. When you walked in, he shook his head. It complicated things, but it also gave us the perfect opportunity to catch them in the act. Linda slowly sank back into her chair as the pieces fell into place. The cameras! You mentioned complaints about missing items. Exactly. Gregory nodded to Rodriguez, who slid a tablet across the table. Watch this. The screen showed split footage, the official security camera on one side, Gregory's hidden camera on the other. Linda watched in disbelief as the official footage showed her apparently slipping the bracelet into her purse. But Gregory's camera revealed the truth, Murray carefully placing the bracelet there while directing her attention elsewhere. We've had our eye on Simmons since he transferred in, Rodriguez explained. Several complaints about his conduct had surfaced in his previous precinct, but nothing concrete enough for charges. When similar patterns started emerging here, Chief Sullivan decided to investigate personally. The scheme was elegant in its simplicity, Gregory continued. Murray would identify a target, usually someone who looked like they didn't belong in a high-end jewelry store. Someone like me, Linda said quietly. Gregory nodded grimly. Murray would plan an expensive piece on them. Simmons, who was conveniently always nearby, would discover the theft. They'd press charges, file insurance claims, but then the items would mysteriously reappear in inventory after the insurance paid out. They've done this before? Linda asked, appalled. At least 7 times that we've confirmed, Rodriguez replied. But previous victims were too intimidated or embarrassed to fight the charges effectively. Most accepted plea deals. So I was just convenient? Linda struggled to process it all. You were supposed to be another statistic, Gregory said, his voice tight with controlled anger. Another case file, another insurance payout, but they made one critical mistake. They chose the wife of the police chief, Linda finished, a hint of irony in her voice. They chose a woman who was innocent, Gregory corrected her gently. The fact that you're my wife just meant I could ensure justice moved swiftly. Rodriguez stood. Mrs. Sullivan, we'll need a formal statement from you, but that can wait until tomorrow. Right now, I imagine you'd like to go home. As they prepared to leave, Linda paused. What happened to Officer Simmons and Mr. Murray? They're both in custody, Rodriguez answered. When Simmons brought you in, he walked right into our trap. As for Murray, Chief Sullivan personally placed him under arrest at the store. The evidence is overwhelming. Outside the station, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the parking lot. Linda took a deep breath of fresh air, letting the reality of her ordeal and her vindication sink in. I'm sorry you got caught in the middle of this, Gregory said, his arm around her shoulders. Linda looked up at him, her composure fully regained. Don't be. I'm not just the police chief's wife, remember? I'm also the woman who helps take down corrupt officers. 2 weeks later, Linda stood before her 3rd grade class, explaining the importance of honesty as part of their character education curriculum. The irony wasn't lost on her, how her own experience had become a powerful teaching tool. The aftermath of the jewelry store incident had been swift and public. Local news had covered the arrests of Officer Simmons and Harold Murray, highlighting the courage of the everyday citizen who helped expose their scheme. Gregory had ensured Linda's name was kept out of the reports, protecting her privacy while still allowing the truth to come to light. The investigation had uncovered 7 previous victims, ordinary people who had been falsely accused, pressured into settlements, and left with criminal records for crimes they never committed. Now, those records were being expunged, reputations restored by the same justice system that had failed them initially. As for Linda, she had emerged from the experience with renewed appreciation for her husband's work and a deeper understanding of how privilege and power could be wielded, for good or for ill. "Mrs. Sullivan," a small voice pulled her from her thoughts. "Is it true that bad people always get caught?" Linda considered the question carefully. "Not always," she admitted. "But that's why it's so important for good people to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. Justice isn't automatic. It requires courage and perseverance." Just like teaching 3rd grade, she thought with a smile. If this story of justice and vindication touched your heart, remember that courage in the face of injustice matters every day. Have you ever stood up against wrongdoing or been vindicated after false accusations? Share your experiences in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that remind us of the importance of integrity and the triumph of truth. Hit that like button if you believe in the power of justice and tell us where you're watching from. Remember, sometimes the most ordinary people can make the most extraordinary difference when they stand their ground.